everyone, and welcome to another World of Sasquatch. Today's episode is being recorded on 10/10/25. We're here with David Purcell today again for this episode of Sasquatch. So before we get into any of the specifics, I now open this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas of this moment in time. So, Joanna?
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We pray for ourselves, our friends, our family, our loved ones as well, to let healing energies in, to let them love us and nourish us and bring us to our highest good. We ask for benevolence now to come in with no conflicting agenda, so that we may have this conversation in great understanding. And we ask for malevolent or mischievous type beings to be swept away, so that we may have this conversation in peace. And with that and great blessings that we always send your way, we say, so be it.
And so be it.
So be it.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting episode, folks. This is going to be on time slips. This is actually quite fascinating. I have this happen all the time, where all of a sudden I'm just sitting here doing my thing, and all of a sudden I'm kind of drifting, and then I'm on a bridge of a ship, either commanding it, or I'm operating weapons, or I'm flying a fighter somewhere, or I'm just walking on another planet, or here's an even weirder one, folks, if that isn't weird enough. I'm going through old files as of today, going through old Galactic Interstellar Council files from before we changed the name to Galactic Universal Consortium. Weird thing is, as I'm going through some of them that I actually have to look at it to find out where it goes, all of a sudden I'm time slipping to the moment I'm doing the channeling and recording, and then looking towards this time frame towards me that's looking at it. And so it's like, that's very disorienting and taxing on the energy. And it's actually quite annoying when that happens. But and you have to really ground to prevent a lot of this from happening. If you get riled up even in the slightest, it just really decouples you. And it's a pain in the ass when that happens. And I have this happen all the time. There's really no completely specific event this week that happened other than the one I just mentioned, but it's happened a lot over the past year in different situations and different variations on a theme. And then somebody on the other end gets pissed, like, oh, you did this at this time, and then they retaliate. And I'm like, okay, I just kind of slipped over here. I've slipped into other universes, other timelines, all this other stuff. Very weird. Some of the two incidents I do remember in my past. This was back in the time where I wrote my book, From the Fall to the Lifting. This was in 2013 time frame. I ended up walking down the stairs to the porch bedroom that was in the back of Hartley Street in Lincoln, Nebraska, and all of a sudden I'm in a completely different version of that room, and it was winter before it was spring then. Well, spring or close to summer, and I'm waking up in a bed, and there's a blonde-haired girl laying there asleep, looking towards the other direction. I tried to run upstairs to get to the calendar to see when and where this was. Didn't quite make it. The other one was a house, though, that I was living in, and empty, and there was just a calendar on the wall that was kind of skewed with writing on it, and it was completely empty, and it was cold outside, and I saw that it was just a dirty calendar there, and the house was full of sadness and anger, and I saw that version of me had gotten divorced from somebody or broke up with somebody. And it was really weird because I remembered there, but when I popped back to this me, I didn't completely remember it. I was lucky I got those two, but these were actual physical ones that I literally stepped into a different room and there I was. That's why I remember them so vividly. But those were ones from quite a while ago that happened around in that time vintage. One, the calendar said December 2017 on it, and the other one I don't know what the time frame was, but it was long before any of that. So I thought that was quite interesting. So I know, David, you had some things happen too.
Yeah, apparently I've been time slipping for decades and haven't realized it, and kind of causing old problems for all kinds of people. Again, I'm sorry about that. I didn't know that was a thing. No one taught me in school about time slipping. Apparently I will be very much similar to you in Starship Command, just talking in only like, what are our orders? I'm like, I have no idea who you people are, what the situation is. I'm not giving any orders because I don't know anything what's going on. All I know is I'm surrounded by a bunch of ETs who are now pissed off at me for some reason, for something that I did or did not do because I have no memory of meeting with them because the me that they're talking to is not the me that they know. So they don't either care or understand, or this is just another psyop operation. At this point, I'm not sure. But I know Hajimal contacted me earlier this week and he was like, David, look, you're slipping through time. Please ground yourself. And I'm like, sure thing, no problem. So I go to a mirror, put my hands on the mirror and say, I am here in this year, October 2025. At this time, I'm David and this is my life. And that seemed to like quiet a lot of stuff down because apparently a lot of the reasons ETs are getting pissed off at me is because I'm also highly telepathic, but I don't have attention span or paying attention right now. So the me that they know is a lot more controlled, and this one wants nothing to do with any of this stuff. So they're all hurt that like we were following you, and I'm like, I have no idea who you people are. And it's just which pisses them off even more because like I mean I get it from their point of view. If you're literally in a commanding position and your commander goes, I have no idea who you people are, where am I, what's going on. That's not great for command. That's just like not a good thing for that. Like that also explains why I would always have memories of the future or something like that because I was literally just there, just interacting and had there's nothing about it. And then, like I said, because of the telepathic stuff that's been going really increased, and they're saying like you need to calm down. You're shouting way too much, and I'm like, this is my normal voice, and they go, no, the other one, and I'm like, I have another voice. And she goes, yes, you do. So they were like, please stop with that. So apparently, like when I'm like freaked out because I'm not in this dimension or another one, and I've been under attack for so long, I treat everything that's around me that comes at me as hostile. So I'm apparently also assaulting and killing some of my crew. Again, sorry. Just shit happens. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I go through the same thing, where this mysterious beings will show up. I'm like, who are you and what are you doing in my place? And oh, you did this. When? And sometimes they don't know whether you've been asleep or awake, like if you've done something in dream walking or something like that too.
yeah.
Slip that way. And I was like, was I asleep? Was I? Oh, you were definitely awake. Do you know what time it was? Was it dark out or was it light out? And they couldn't tell me. And I found out if you want them to judge a coherent time frame, kind of sync it up, look at if it's nighttime, look at the star pattern that's outside. Just go and say this, and they'll know that by time. If you just say this is what this looks like,
So what I had to learn how to do was because a lot of the ETs and especially the mantis kept going on over and over again. They go, your thoughts and actions matter, David. You don't understand how multidimensional you actually are. You think one thing here, it goes something else over there. So now every day I basically set my intentions while looking in the mirror saying, I am focused on this life and this David. This is all my energy goes. I have no things to that. And that solved some of the problems that really did. And even the ETs were like, just thank you. And they just walked away. It was just like, that's fine. That's all they want. Just leave us alone. It was like, I didn't bother you. You guys came to me. I just,
That's funny. I do notice this is probably one of the weirder ones. When I did like slipping into other timelines and universes, what happens is like the Yggdrasil tree, the big tree, or the Yggdrasil tree. When the branches get really close to one another, this is when certain Mandela effect things happen when they do this, and it's like a big wind moving them. But if you get them like really close, you could slip from even one world line to another. You're on a timeline where it has a bunch of little hair timelines and little branch timelines. Then you can jump to a totally different world line, jump to a completely different world line. And I remember waking up and switching places with another me as well, and then switching back, and that version of me being very pissed off at me. So it's like, don't ever do this again. I didn't do it intentionally. Now that kind of thing. And it was another me that was chewing me out. So, and you have other darker yous that will attack you as well, like in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, where he battles the other version of him. That can happen. So
I had a couple of mates trying to get to my heads and they're like, well, if you're not going to use it, I will. I'm like, I did not consent to you being anywhere near me and you can go away. But as far as going to the other universes, I did something very similar last year. I was talking to my friend and he was saying, he goes, David, you know all the amazing stuff you can do. Have you ever tried to actually purposely time travel and go back and try to prevent some of the stuff that happened? And I'm like, no, I didn't know I could do that. So later that night, I had this feeling that I could do it. So I kept astral traveling and I kept going up and up and up and up. And I climbed to the top of our universe. And I remember literally pulling myself out of this universe and sitting on the ledge and looking around and seeing a bunch of other different triangles with different various in colors and different hues. And I thought, okay, and just jumped right in there. And I descended right down to one of them, trying to find the version of me from pre-World War One, that version. I found another one of me on another Earth, and I literally descended down, and it was literally me inside of another me. But this me had no abilities. None of the weird stuff ever happened to him, so he was freaking out about this. And I'm sitting there talking to him, and I'm talking for a few minutes, and I realize that he's kneeling down, and it feels like he's stalking something. And he goes, I go, can I ask what you're doing? He goes, well, I was stocking the shelves, but apparently I'm talking to another me from another universe right now. And I was
hmm.
like, yeah, that's about right. And so we started talking, and I asked him if we could talk for a little bit, and he said sure. And one of the things he asked me, he goes, so can anyone from where you are do this? And I go, I don't know. It's my first time doing it. And so we're talking, and he's telling me, who's your president? And he said, oh, right now our president is Michelle Obama.
Hmm.
And I'm like, the one with the shoulders? And he goes, don't you dare make fun of her. She's a very important figure. I'm like, calm down, calm down. Didn't want to do anything about it. Sorry about that. And then at the time I said, and then he goes, well, who's your president? And I said, well, currently right now it's Joe Biden. And he goes, that guy? I thought they got rid of him a long time ago. And I'm like, well, our world's a little bit messed up. I go, but it looks like our Donald Trump's going to be the next president. He goes, what kind of monsters do you have in charge? I go, yeah, we got monsters. Just chill out. And and so I was asking him, I go, so we have like 7 days in a week. We had, the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And he goes, do you have those? And he goes, we have Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. But then he went to so the rest of the week was one of the days was called Thor's Day and something else. And I didn't really remember, but I just remembered it was called Thor's Day. And the place he was working was called a Freedom Mart or something like that, something like that. But so we talked for a little bit, and he asked if we can come talk. And I asked him if we come back and we talk again. And he says, sure. And I go, how do I contact you? And I says, oh, just remember this feeling we just had. And then I realized he had no abilities whatsoever. This was like the first psychic thing that ever happened to him. Like he had
Oh,
never seen ghosts. He had no sensibilities, nothing whatsoever. And I'm like, you know what? I'll contact you. Just next time, just I want to make sure of like if you can review like the last 100 years of your history. I just want to see if there was like major divisions or anything like that. I'm not looking for like line by line, but just a broad range. And he goes, I can do that. And as I'm calling back up at him, I hear him talk to his coworker, and he goes, hey, what do you know about multiple Earths and other versions of people? He goes, why? He goes, because I just had one pop in my head looking for another version of himself and said I was the wrong version.
hmm.
Mhm.
But I ended up finding out the right version and went back in time and did heal him. It couldn't stop it, but it definitely healed him, which was interesting. But yeah, it's so the slipping into other dimensions, the time slips. Again, I had no idea that was a thing. That's not covered in school. Was that covered in any of your classes? Not mine.
I just saw Hajmal in mine. I just saw it's like
Well, thank you, Abdul.
but yeah, that's funny. And in his course, he'd have to teach one of those courses, or at least he's one of them that probably teaches that there. But that'd be interesting if that did happen. I've run into those very things, with other versions pissed off. Oh my God, there was one I ran into a session with a friend of mine version who was like he was like the evil warlord of that particular Earth, and it was like he had completely like conquered like the Cabal and all this other stuff, and he was like the big cheese of that universe. One of the funniest ones one of the interesting ones I ran into is one that was at war with a reptilian race, and the entire Earth was like a colonial, like early colonial America or British looking, architecture where England had conquered the entire globe,
Mm.
and where like me and Joanna were like the king and queen. And this was before I met her. And I saw this scenario where there was a friend of mine that was also the our basically our manservant for the castle, and he was the carriage driver. That we drove horse and buggy and carriage in that one, and we were at war with this like reptilian race that had come from a different universe. And at one point they were conquered, and everybody pushed them back. But that Earth wasn't even called Earth; it was called Lindar. And
Mm.
it was like it was really interesting where they were still using powder weapons, but they had high technology, like they had pads, but you would use like a quill for the stylus. It was all in the early like the George Washington period type look, and it was I thought that was quite interesting the way that was a divergent societal evolution there. But it was I thought that was quite interesting, uh, but it was very vastly different than ours.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as my other time slips, the most recent one I had, apparently, I was, like I said, I just discussed it, was on a battleship or something like that, commanding. But apparently, I've been going through different dimensions and basically messing up everybody's plans to the point where literally Hajmal had to get involved and say, "You are falling through time. Stop it, please." He got a lot of, but yeah, he was able to really help me, and it was nice to actually be more grounded and that I have to be aware of my intentions, which it sucks because sometimes I just don't want to pay attention and I'm lazy. I admit that.
Yeah. Oh, I do
And
the same. So.
yeah, I mean, I've also been like worn down, so I'm just like, they're like, you have to do this. But then, it's just, then I had some ETs contacting me recently and they were like telling me, it's like, well, the reason you're having all your time problems is because in the 2030s, you fight in the time wars. You get picked up to fight in the time wars. And I says, cool, I'm going to need some more information than that, than just some random ET telling me that something happens in the 2030s. And he goes, no, because you're going to obsess over it. And what you need to be doing is honoring the divine in yourself and others, doing your art and focusing on here. And I'm like, okay, so you told me not to obsess about something that I clearly will obsess over, and you're telling me to do something that I know I should be doing, that I am doing. And then he's like, yes. And he goes, don't blame me for your problems. I'm like, I didn't even know you existed until you started talking to me. So it's,
Yeah, exactly. It's like I'll obsess over it now that you said something. Now
yeah.
I'll be focused. I got it.
But it's funny because I've had other ETs say, yeah, you're in the time wars, no problem. I even had one ET literally try to take and clone and make copyrights of my grandkids, which I don't have any kids, so that was really annoying that he did that shit. Apparently, yeah, he had these little guys and these little grays that he made, and he literally told them, yeah, they're so that they thought they were doing the greatest thing in the world by protecting humanity by literally saving this. And I had to explain to them, I said, guys, I can make that video of what he showed you over a weekend on my computer. And it's not that hard. And just broadcast it in your brain. And he goes, why would he do that? Because he's lying. And I explained to him, I go, people that use you like that tend to look down on you, don't really matter to you. And he goes, and then, so this guy, this black man just shows up and he sees me talking to his little, I don't want to call them minions, that was the wrong word, but little people. And he literally goes, why are you interacting with him? And he looks at me and then he literally grabs them and walks them away from them and starts going, why are you interacting with him? And I go, I can still hear you and see you. And and the little guys are telling him is like, well, we thought it would be more beneficial if he knew it was coming so he could work with us. And I can feel the fear of everything like he has told them is a complete lie and he is about to be unwarned. And I go, let me talk to you for a second. Come here, little buddy. And one of the little grays, I go, no, not you. Your other one. Come here. And I go, what did you do? And he goes, well, I may have cloned you and your kids and sold them. That's what I was supposed to do. And after that, I proceeded to literally beat the crap out of him where he's begging for his life. And so from the little gray's point of view, I had just beaten their god up.
Oh God.
And as soon as I'm like, he's crying for help, then all of a sudden, another ET comes in. This one is an Anunnaki. And he's like, what are you doing? I paid good money for that. And I'm like, whatever contract you had with him, whatever services is not happening. You are not getting any of my children that I don't have already. You are not doing any of this. And he's like, but we had a deal. I was like, well, you made a deal with a bad person and it didn't turn out. That's more on you at this point. And he
Mhm.
got really pissed off. So I avoided all the contracts and I said, you take one more step and I'm going to do the same thing to you. And he just left me there while I'm hanging this little mantis by his thorax. And all the other ones are like, our creator, everything we do. I go, look, I'm sorry you guys got lied to. That's what happens. I don't have anything else. And they were
A
just,
lot of shysters out there. Yeah. Yeah.
some of them just like literally just start skizzing out. Like their brains couldn't handle it. And so he literally, I let the mantis go and I says, we're done, right? You're not going to do this anymore? Because I know I can find you. You know I can get you. And he literally just crawls back through a portal, like he's dragging himself with one arm.
Oh yeah, I there's been plenty of those stories on this end where somebody will show one gigantic Eben showed up one time, really tall Eben showed up in a robe, red robe, and he goes, "Okay, you're basically was saying that I had an appointment." I'm like, "No, I don't think I know you." And it's like, "Oh yeah, we needed your DNA to do this." And it's like, "Yeah, nice try." It's not happening. And then, yeah, he thought he tried to intimidate that night by trying to abduct me. I'm like, no, I didn't actually consent to this. And also, yeah, I've run into that where I said, next time if you try this, you're going to get clobbered. And sure enough, tried it again. He got clobbered. But yeah, he was this really, really tall, like 12-foot tall, like even with a gigantic white head. And he had this big red like almost like Santa Claus looking like robe on. And yeah, and he was obviously a geneticist, but he was trying to make himself look like some kind of prophet so that I would trust him. And he didn't actually dress like that. That was a costume. So it was I've run into that kind of crap multiple times too. And that's also from the time slippage where you've not covered your tracks going to another time frame or another place, another time, and they'll track you. The way you prevent that is by visualizing your shoes being burned every time and then closing that circle, cutting that cord each time. I've noticed then that cuts back on any other retaliatory forces or anybody showing up to look for who did what. I've noticed that cuts it down to like this. It's very rare they trace the burning of the whole shoe pathway, so the quantum pathway.
Yeah, I found out that if I start using more of a bubble method, like bubbles within bubbles, that also stops a lot of the energy thing. Um, Recently I was in sleeping and all of a sudden I saw four guys dressed as paramedics, but I knew they weren't paramedics. So they came around me and they said, "Yeah, we're just gonna do a quick check on you, make sure you're okay." And they did something to me, and my head literally shot up in a blue flame,
Hmm.
and like it wasn't even just like like a spark. It was like that. And he goes, "Oh yeah, yeah, he has definitely been to other universes. You need to do not do that." You make yourself too much of a target like that. We're gonna tone this back down and put this down. Stay out of there. But I'm like, and it took me a little bit to realize what was happening, just because I was like, I saw a big giant blue flaming skull, and I was like, "Ooh, pretty." And and he's like, "Just make sure you're shielding and cut yourself off and watch where you're going, please." I was like, "Thank you," and he just like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," and they just went on their day. Like,
Oh yeah, you freak out some of the one of the galactics come in. There was one. This was actually an alien abduction moment where I was literally taken from work. And normally I would thank somebody taking me from work from like it was 7:30 in the morning. And then I looked at the clock. It was 3:30 in the afternoon, and the day was done at that point. But then there was like a pile of dishes. I was a dish guy at a pizza place, so it was
ah, it sucks.
and there was a pile of dishes there. And I got accused of not being at work for leaving. I found out aliens had taken me, and when the memory came back, I'd been taken to a ship where there were these really tall Ebens. They're the same group, and only their faces looked a little different. Where they had these weird cowpatch look. They had more of an Orion influx of DNA, and there was where I remember in the dream sequence and the memory was coming back, they were putting me through this weird maze where I had to climb over different boxes and all this other stuff. And they were testing physical agility and all this other stuff, like almost like American Ninja Warrior. And I remember getting down off of off of this, and this one group of them just approached me, of like maybe 12 or 13 of them, and one steps forward and just puts a finger, like a hand on my chest, kind of like this, and I just remember just slugging him in the face, and he lets out this shriek. And I remember another one turned to him and goes, "You were stupid for doing that." The one turned to the other and said, "You should have known that was going to happen. He has a hairline trigger. You can't do that. We're training him to do this. We got him adrenalized up. You shouldn't have poked him." It's like, and I was like, "Exactly. What are you doing to me here?" "Oh, no, no, you're fine. Don't mind me. He's stupid. We're cool. And said, "We're not cool because we're on your spaceship. What's going on?" And it's like, it's like, "Oh no, we're good. You're starting to come out of this state. We got to return you back to where we took you. We just needed you for like a few hours. It'll be about 6 hours later when we put you back." So it's like, and it was. So I thought that was actually quite interesting. I said, "Excuse the time slippage. We're cool. We'll put you back."
It's interesting that you mentioned something about an obstacle course because I remember a few months ago being placed in this one and they told me go over there. And I remember taking 2 steps, then like turning around and just start punching through the wall. And I remember them going, he's out of it already. And I remember I heard them just all go, he broke our throwing again.
Oh yeah. That one of the weirder abduction things that I haven't told people. I know this slipped into abduction. I know there's time slippage involved in this because of the way they take people. But I just had dreams where I was just going around peeing on things. I was like,
Yes.
"What the hell is this?" And it turned out that was the memory of somebody who was doing medical work on me, or some kind of work on me and taking me out of time thing. But they said my body was reacting and I was going around like a drunk, going around and peeing in the corner and stuff like that. And I said, "Whoever ship I just messed up, sorry." They're like, "We're cool, we're good." This happens a lot, actually. Mm.
So back to time slips. So how would to someone who's very new to this or didn't even know they existed, how could you recognize them?
Oh, how could you recognize time slip? Well, and sometimes this is the easiest one when you're in a daydream state. Where all of a sudden, like, say you're just working on a project, or if you're watching TV, or something like that, or you're watching like a specific thing, like sci-fi or something like that, and you're kind of daydreaming, like you're in the thing. Like people fantasize and daydream like they're in something and doing something. It happens a lot, and imagining. Now, take say that a bit of the imagination starts to go into something that's similar to what you're watching, but it's not the exact same thing like you had tried to imagine. Say you're watching a starship battle go on, all of a sudden you're in something that's just like it, that doesn't look anything like what you're. So like the ships are different, situations slightly different, but it's not the same scene. It's just that triggered that time slippage. That is how you can recognize it if it's slightly off like that. And the way you stop it, once you've reestablished, established that this is something like that, you can envision yourself re-anchoring here just by picturing tree branches that are going into the ground, from your feet, and re-anchoring. And when that happens, you'll go back into your normal imagination mode while you're watching whatever it is you're watching. Because sometimes when you're unanchored, this will happen a lot. Your thoughts will start racing, going in different areas, different
Yes.
times, and the more, and I hate to say this word, but the more autistic someone is, it tends to go into even more to that. And grounding is much more difficult for somebody who is not like the norm, let's just say. So, yeah, but if you find yourself in this situation, it most commonly is in the daydream state. Most common I've ever seen it is in the daydream state. And another way to do this is an adaptation of the dreamtime revocation. And I knew to add these things to the Dreamtime revocation. The way the normal one would go is Chris Jacobs, or say your name, revoke any all agreements made in Dreamtime with any malicious being and or beings. Now the extended version accounts for slippages. You have I no, Chris Jacobs do hereby revoke any and all agreements made in Dreamtime, Daydream Time, Fantasy, and Imagination Time with any malicious being and or beings. I revoke and release it all that is forever so in all moments, all sessions, and expressions. And you can add timelines to that as well. And you do that, you're going to fix whatever the time slippage is as well, and it'll redirect it to right where you are. And what you did, David, actually works as well, where you say your name, time frame, and who you actually are. You get back into your I am presence. You ground into that I am presence. Works like a charm.
Right.
From what I understand, but sometimes people don't realize they're slipping into it, and all of a sudden they're way to hell over here, and it's like,
Yeah, that's apparently how I spent most of my life, apparently.
and it's you can't really blame somebody for not noticing this because who would at this point?
Yeah.
But now that we've identified a marker point of it, people should be able to identify other incidences of it as well. Dreams, oh yeah, like crazy. You go into these other time frames, but you're going into sometimes your soul record as to a time frame as well. Like if there's an unresolved energy as well, and you have to rewrite a timeline. If it's a past life or something, and it's a dark night of the soul resolution. This goes into this. This is the one thing I've done in sessions for people. Like, say if somebody had a past life that was really, really, really rotten. I mean, absolutely horrendous. Like it was the anus of all of the lifetimes, basically.
I've had multiple ones of those.
Huh?
I've done those multiple times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But say this one was pretty ugly, or one of them anyway. What you do is, like, say if somebody died horrendously. Like there was one lifetime where I got killed by a great white shark. I kept seeing this being eaten over and over again. What I did was I was a fisherman that got knocked over by this shark. What happened was I just rewound it back, say, a few days. This guy was prepared to where he was preparing to go fishing this one particular day. I basically said, "Don't go on this day." I basically tried to get him to divert. Stay home. It's not too good. Your boat will get capsized. Go to the other side of this island. And I acted kind of like a guide at that point. And what I did was I backed it up to enough where it formed a branch timeline where you see this white flash, and it creates this branch to where you now have connected to that instead. And everybody's always jumping timelines all the time. You're jumping thousands of them a second right now. It's just that when you start to drift, you start to go into these other frequencies and energies and memories. Memories, frequencies, memories. So you start to connect to that temporal frequency. And when the way they or the way they travel in space is frequency here, move this one here, and it pulls the other one this way. This is how time slippages work too. You start to program this with this one's energy. It goes automatically to itself, a sinking particle. So if you sync it to a different timeline by which that outcome did not happen, whatever wounds you had in your energy from the other thing vanish. And that also prevents that particular time slippage because it is a part of your oversoul that is actually trying to resolve something that happened in that temporal field, and you've now corrected it by rewriting.
I wonder if that's what happened when I went back in time and found the World War I version of me. That sounds exactly like what I did.
I believe that's exactly what you did. Yes, where you went back and changed the outcome, and it created another branch timeline.
Yeah.
So, and then you disconnected with that, and it fixed whatever you needed to fix. And some people hate it when I do that because they say, "Oh, messing with one thread, you're unraveling another." If you mess with the multiverse too much and there's no real need for it, absolutely you're going to screw stuff up. But only if it's needed do you do things like that. And I've done that. Somebody taught me past life rewriting quite some time ago. And whatever that lifetime is affecting you now, whatever it could be manifesting as misfortune and injury, or what I call a compound energy weight, where say if you had an injury in one lifetime and then 10 of them you get the same damn injury. If you find the origin of that, whether it's reciprocal where you've done it to somebody or you've had it done to you, sometimes it's both. If you find all of that, it rewrites everything after that, and you've corrected the whole domino effect. And it can be tricky to find the
It's
point.
interesting that you mentioned that doing it to somebody else. I hadn't thought of that as a part of a problem or part of an outcome, that it was actually coming back to me energetically. And then I'm realizing, crap, that's probably what happened, and I have to go fix that at some point.
Oh, yeah. It's not always necessary. Some beings will trick you into thinking that it's necessary to do it because another outcome favors them, too.
Yeah.
So, and they could be from a timeline by which they want you to anchor, therefore they can use and abuse, too. So,
Now,
yeah.
how can people learn to figure out if what they're doing is that general healing, or if they're being manipulated by somebody else for their own ends? How would you recommend people feel about that?
It's more based on feeling and discernment at that point. If you feel somebody's giving you a line of crap, it usually is. So, and if it feels okay, like it feels this really light feeling, great. If you get this pit in your chest, don't bother at that point. Say hell no at that point. So I've noticed that time and again, the intuition wins out every single time. And you just have to learn to really listen to it and trust it. Like even if say Isaac or somebody has said something to me and it didn't feel right, I'm going, no, I think there's more to this than what you're saying. Or say if another being was trying to get me to rewrite timelines, like, no, I don't think it will. It feels wrong. Now, if I'm in a state where I feel versus what any other being say, what I feel needs to happen to correct it, and my own intuition is saying, yes, then go for it. But that's usually the way it has to be dealt with, is purely on the intuitive level. And if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. If it does, do it. So
But I think a lot of people feel
yeah.
That they're obliged to do it versus want to do it.
Yes.
And that's what we're saying, is that, when it's really right, because you have to look at yourself. Am I a decent person who doesn't actually want to cause all this harm to others or others on another timeline? In an answer of being yes, meaning, kind of like, if it really is what it is, I do expect myself, my oversoul, to want to correct it versus feeling obliged to, but not really interested in.
Yeah.
And so that really kind of, I think that maybe that helps simplify a little bit. You have to have enough trust in yourself that your intuition will guide you on really what maybe should be something you should do. But I have to tell you, this is my humble opinion, and I am curious about what Hajimal says, that I actually don't think that is a lot of times where you need to go correct something. I think it's a minimal amount of interference that you need to go do something very little versus a lot of what people want you to do or do either on their behalf or whatever, and they want you to go and interfere for whatever the purpose is. So I have to say, in all honesty, that I think it's going to be, if people really listen to themselves, it's going to be only a few times that they would need to go do something. It seems to be, I don't know the better way to say this, and again, I am curious what Hajimal says, to be the du jour of the moment, that everyone's got to go fix everything about everything else, right? And it all it is keeping you ungrounded from the current present moment. So it seems to be, to my humble opinion, when you see something become such a du jour of the moment, that you should be saying, is this really a truth or not? Or is this really just another distraction to keep me busy in something else instead of my personal growth? And I think people should give pause to that when they're thinking about this. I'm not a big fan and never have been. I've made it quite clear. I do not feel that there are a lot of people out there that, can actually see threads properly of when something should be repaired. I do not think people should be going to other people and telling them that this is happening and this is a problem, especially if you have no memory, no inkling. No, it's really not.
There could be something controlling them to get you to get them to say it, to tell you.
Yeah.
To cause entanglements more than it is there for a healing. It doesn't happen nearly as much, but it seems, honestly, it does seem to be the du jour of the moment, which I have to think always to myself, well, who benefits from a moment like this? It certainly won't be benevolence in your personal growth, because it's really going to be a distraction, although they're going to say you have to do it to grow. It's a lie. But it's going to be said so that you feel obligated to go do something. And so again, you should never be feeling that I have to do it even though I don't want to. You really should be called to do something. And if people really listen to themselves, it will not be that often. It will not be, because the oversoul will handle the rest, and it really will.
Yeah, and I've said this to people as well, where people say, you got to go into this dimension and act like a guide to this particular version and this other dimensional version. I said, isn't that the oversoul's job? The oversoul is the one that relegates all of that and delegates all of that. It's not my job to go do this, and I had somebody say, well, you're not doing your shadow work if you're not working on these dimensions. I said, that sounds wrong to me because my own personal shadow work, yes, that's my responsibility. Somebody else's situation in another dimension is their own business.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because I've literally said that to other ETs, like, well, you did this. I was like, listen, I'm David in this life. I've never met you before. I'm not taking responsibility for something somebody else did. I just learned that lesson a long time ago, recently, and I'm not going back. And they're like, well, what do you want me to do? Well, deal with the problem you have in your dimension and don't come to mine, and I'll stay away from yours. And he's like, you'll stay away from me? I was like, I really don't want to be around you. And he's like, well, okay. And he just left.
Yeah, usually that's all it takes. Sometimes some of these beings can't tell the difference between one dimensional area and the next because they don't operate in a straight line.
Yeah.
Like you hear in Marvel, the character of Kang when he goes, "I don't operate in a straight line." That's how some of these operate as well, where they're going from dimension to dimension, and it doesn't matter to them. Usually, it's usually just another room they've walked into, and so you have to point out to them exactly what you did. I'm me in this dimensional space. You're dealing with another variant or version of me over there. I have no responsibility.
For
Yeah,
human channelers and seer too.
yeah.
Because if they're saying, well, this is you, not necessarily. Again, it could be a different version of you having a different life. Apparently, the oversoul likes to have similar look. So that's the one thing that I can say. Well, it appears to me that the oversoul likes to carry a similar
It's an
look.
energy shape. It's known as the energy shape, where the avatars all carry a similar shape.
They carry a similar shape and look going on and having their experiences, but it's the oversoul having all of these different experiences all at the same time. But I think, so I think I honestly do think there's great confusion over that. And so I think what's happening right now is that, again, there are good people who, again, we're not well versed in all this. We're learning about this. I think it's easy to play people to make them think they have to go fix there's no way. Just think about you being your avatar right now at your age, right? And God bless you, if you had a little SSP crammed into that and how old you are. But there are hundreds and thousands, if not more, versions of you. How can you clean that up? It is not your job. And so there is such great confusion, I think, in this whole area. I think the key is the recognition of, am I grounded to the experience in my current present moment that I'm supposed to be having? Or am I off too much and I may be impeding my own personal growth that I'm supposed to be doing in my current present moment because I'm too far off, going off and doing things? And then again, people here just in this current present moment are going to tell you a load of crap that's not really true. Times that by 100,000 and you got every being and everybody else, also pulling your chain, right? So I think, again, when you look at what's the answer to this, I think the answer to this is maybe more simple. Stay in your lane. Be where you're supposed to be. Doing what you are supposed to be doing here. Do as best as you can to ground. There could be a few moments where maybe I did something I should go and fix. But in general, can you imagine the chaos? Even just think if that's happening to you and that's happening to 10,000 other yous that are being told the same thing, right? People jumping here and there thinking they need to fix things, thinking they need to do. Can you see the chaos? I think people don't understand the bigger picture of how many versions of you are existing all at the same time. You did not create those other versions. Your oversoul created all those versions. You just happen to be one of the avatars. And so I think that can get very confusing to people. And you could spend the rest of many lifetimes just trying to fix things and never grow yourself because you're too busy pinging off of all this stuff instead of focusing where you need to be. And so I just think right now there's just a lot of, I call it the mythos of stuff, where people are thinking things that really aren't that true, but we're not necessarily educated enough ourselves. We're just learning about this to know that we just need to stay grounded where we are the best that we can. So, but I am interested in what he, and what Hajamal seems to say about all this.
All I know is when you said, you were slipping through time, I remember him saying you hurtle through time like a comet. So that's like okay, let's see here.
It's interesting that you mentioned about staying in your lane. Like when I first started talking to the Mantis, and I would ask them, ask them about other worlds and other stuff like that. And to their credit, they would always say, "Look, just focus on where you are. That's really what you are." And I took it as I can do what I want. I'm gonna go where I want. I'm my own person. And I'm like, I probably should have listened to them a little bit more back then on that one. I'm gonna give them that much on that one. So.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, okay, yeah, had them all. All right. Yeah, all right, yeah, I'll show everybody the piece. Yeah, right here. This is where he's going through. Right here. So, oh man, that's heavy. Okay. He goes, yeah, it's heavy because you put some good shit in it. That's why. All right. He's impressed with the fact I use the real stuff, so it's like I use all the good shit. He says so. All right. All right. All right. God, the energy is so charged in my nose will not stop itching. God dang it. Okay.
That's the weirdest thing. Like since I've been, I haven't been all this week. I have been so hungry to the point where I've been like ravenous hunger,
Mhm.
and I haven't experienced this in years. And unfortunately, when I get really hungry, my mood goes to feed me, and everything else must be burned to the earth. It's like
Hangry, yes. So instead of angry, hangry, yeah. Okay, let's see. Okay, had them all. All right. What? I didn't put my thumb in your eye. Okay. All right, let's see. Apparently, when you touch the edifices, if you touch them in the eye or something, like sometimes they'll feel that like you just put your thumb in their eye or something like that. So it's really weird when they access that. So I can really feel a tingle from that one too. All right. Hang on. All right. Okay, had them all. Had one, had them all. You want to talk now? Excuse the abruptness. This is because, like yourself, David, he hurdles through multiple timelines a second, but he's actually aware he's doing it, so therefore it speeds the process up. Yes, being aware is a great thing, but it has its drawbacks, you see, where, in fact, you get, how can I put this? With the knowledge of, it's like, say, if you approach a water slide, you have the knowledge that you're going down that slide. What do? You go down the slide faster. That, oh, I'm aware I'm on the slide, so I'm shooting down further. Now, let's say if you were unaware, you were shooting down a slide, but you felt the slight breeze, maybe a little water. Then maybe you would slightly be more grounded. This is the drawback, of sometimes knowing. But I, myself, would rather know than not know. But at this early stage in the game, there is energy clearing here. At this early stage in the game, some people are not ready, like that other version of yourself you said was stocking shelves. That version of yourself was just having a regular existence, stocking shelves, doing the day-to-day grind of that particular universe. And there are universes, though, that also do not have versions of you. There's universes where you're a different gender. There's universes, there's dimensions where you're a totally different somebody in some dimensional space. Again, like what you've said, it is not your concern. I know people in your New Age metaphysical community have been taught since practically they popped out that you have to interfere with these dimensions. The only time you get to do anything with it is if it was like the movie Anything Everywhere All at Once, where there's a collapse or an audit imminent, or that's for the oversoul, or there is some tool needed that you can utilize here for a minute, which is actually looking at one of the chapters of one of your books in the Grand Library. That's essentially what that is. Do you get to stay over there? No. Now, they always show in the movies that the people that go into other universes get to stay. That is incredibly rare. That is incredibly, incredibly rare. Now, where I'm at, where I'm actually currently talking to you from, this is on the boundary of both Lanulos and Tartario, the dimensional spaces, where the school actually is. This is where J.K. Rowling got the idea for Hogwarts. It's essentially a PowerPoint of dimensions, or to a lesser extent, your Masters of the Universe, where Castle Grayskull was on a Nexus. This is the same thing, whereas we are on the boundaries of one another. And I teach whom wishes to be taught in this particular set of classrooms. This is why he's recognizing like things from the Harry Potter verse, because the Tartarian world unity is actually the inspiration for the Wizarding world. So, and I pointed out to him on GIC not too long ago that the Degori character from your Narnia was based on myself. Or at least partially. And look, except I'm slightly more hairy than that character is, but the attitude and the way that the character carries himself is essentially the same, and teaching in a university, so to speak. He was looking in the Harry Potter verse for something like me. I told him it was a different franchise that I was in. So not that I have anything against Harry Potter, but with this, the time slippage. Yes, an anchor is necessary because the soul's tendency, or the oversoul's tendency, is to drift with the waves like a tide, an ebb, and a flow. The avatars are all supposed to be grounded, like nailed to the earth, with a mooring line stronger than anything that you can think of. But when you get caught up into the ebb and flow, the rip tide, and eventually the undertow, with that, then here comes this time slippages. Just like you saw in the show Loki, where Loki was jumping. This is exactly what is happening. You are passing through multiple timelines a second anyway. Imagine if you got adrift in the ebb and flow. This is what happens, where then all of a sudden you're in a space version of you, you're in another existence that you actually had as you, but now you're no longer that you. And sometimes you actually think back to a you that only happened a few years ago, but you're also no longer that you. He noticed this today when he looked back at his files. He saw how disorganized they were. He's like, what the hell was wrong with me then? Because it was a different you. See, this because you are more grounded, more in the I am presence, and I'm saying this to him, and therefore what came before looks disheveled or disorganized, because there was more of a grounding that took place, and then you recognize that, oh, I don't know that version of myself anymore. Some people think that's the walk-in process. This is not. This is because you're expanding your perceptions and perspectives, and the better parts of the oversoul and the better parts of the avatar are more grounded and not succumbing to the ebb and flow and the riptide. I hope this makes sense, and I will go into questions.
Thank you very much. I first want to say thank you for helping me out last week with that little demon incident in my head. Very good on that one. And I'm really glad I got to see how actual powerful you actually are. It was really nice to see that. During Chris's last channeling I did with him, he mentioned, or one of the channeling beings mentioned that the SSP stuff that most of us have memories of had happened 50 years ago from the galaxy's point of view. I was wondering if you could elaborate on that a little bit more.
Yes, it's think of it as relativity, like your Einstein's theory of relativity, or also think about like in your movie Interstellar, for instance, whereas as they were approaching that other galaxy or that other system, the pilots they sent out months before were just merely arriving when they get there. So think of it as time lag like this, where also sometimes 50 years can happen in a spot and only a few years happen in another one. Take, for example, he himself was on Lanulos for 30 plus years. Does it look like he was there for 30 plus years? No. This is a form of time slippage, and also in some dimensional spaces, people do not age, and some age very slowly. They age when they come here. When it comes to Lanulos, for instance, uh, think about this way. The books had this mostly correct. Where they come here, they start to succumb to the vibration of Midgard, being your earthly plane. Then, just like with a time slippage or to a different frequency, you start to get a sense of disorientation, and you begin to forget where you came from. And many people attribute it to spirit and coming here and incarnating. It is actually much more simple than that. Some of you, a lot of you that are listening to this, that are attracted to this, did legitly come from somewhere else, and you have just forgotten. It's not just reincarnation. You literally came from point A to point B within a time lag such as this. Now, within an SSP time frame, this is the abomination of the whole trick here. Say, through some time travel project, they cloned you, put you into that body, and then sent you on your way, and then sent you back. And that was for 20 years. You're getting that quantum entanglement the whole time. Some are for much longer, 50, 60 years. This is how this comes into play, where your memories far exceed what your brain here has experienced. This could cause its own set of problems, and if it is not grounded out correctly, or what he found out from a friend of his recently, that the oversoul could literally take this other alter that is a soul shard expression. Sometimes if it's a separate one, if it's only in here, this can be dealt with easier. But if it's physical, the oversoul can literally reabsorb that shard and literally take that particular expression off the game board, even if they're in the midst of a 20 and back or what have you. This actually stabilizes the current you. Now, this is very rare that this gets to happen, but the oversoul had had enough of other agendas out there and then reabsorbed that particular avatar, then by which then, that is the oversoul's right to do. Whereas reclaiming a bit of itself, that time frame is finished. Some people call it life contracts, so that's not what it's actually called, if you understand this. The 50-year relativity time lag has to do with relativity, and it also has to do with dimensional and temporal. What's the word I could use? Vibrational values, yes, but at the same time, no pun intended. The humans do not have a word for this. The closest word that I can come up with is quantum entanglement, but that doesn't even begin to cover this. How one lags and the other isn't is Einstein was the closest with relativity. I hope this answers the question.
It does, it very much. And it's interesting that you mentioned the phrase game board, because a lot of the times when I was dealing with some of these people in the SSP, I would literally see a game board and different squares, and everything would go into like a red frequency, and each one would have their own players, and someone would be like that. I'm like, I'm not playing your game. I mean, me personally, I'm always the kind of person who will just kick open the game board and just start fresh.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask, I've been contacted a lot, and they've been calling me, not contender. What the fuck's the word? I'm sorry, excuse me. A lot of them, they've been calling me, they've been trying to get me for some type of position. They won't say what it is. But they keep telling me, like, you need to be doing this for this role, and it's a great honor. And I'm like, you're not telling me anything about it. I don't like working with you. As far as I know, I severed every contract I have with every organization out there, and I am not going back.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, and they keep calling me this, it's what is it? Not contestant.
Candidate.
Yeah, candidate. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what that is about?
I will have to say, those particular beings, when you encounter these types of things, they are shockingly and 100% full of shit. Because at the same time, they are actually recruiting you because they need you in your genomic structure or your energy structure for a particular job. So they will say that you were there in order to obtain the consent to take you there. You see, sometimes you are there. A lot of times you are not. Like they said, oh, you're a candidate. That's in the word. You see, the wording. Candidate doesn't necessarily mean you were there. That means they want you there.
Okay.
You for whatever purposes they want, and they may not be physical right there in your presence, but through that telepathy or through that holography they're using, there's a lot of energy flying around, they will try to come down physically and grab you or a piece of you to become another avatar somewhere. Neither one you want, let's just say. So in this instance, if you run across this, tell them to basically take a hike because, yes, and you have. Keep doing this because that will eventually stop.
But, and don't you think, I don't recall if this is what you said because you were speaking about it earlier to us, but it seems to me that what's happening right now with these shysters, let's just say, is a nice way of saying it, that they're actually pretending to be somehow a part of a galactic federation type of thing where they're, trying to get these candidates to do whatever. They're lying through their teeth.
Yes, they're lying, but there are GF testers, you call them out there, that are a specific sect. Some people accuse me of being this strict. I resent that particular notion because, yes, I'm strict even with the enunciation of my name. Valiant Thor is worse. And Quelhehip is even worse. That is an Arcturian teacher who is a pain in the butt. Well, he's the old teacher that you would not want to have as your instructor because he's boring as piss. But people have accused me of this. They've definitely accused Valiant Thor of this, and they've definitely accused Aquilida of this. So, but with the testing, you will know if it's a legitimate one or if they're shockingly full of crap. The full of crap ones are the ones that put an impossible solution in your way, and they don't expect you to react, like the one that he said off recording about the testers not wanting him to go check on the robbery that was taking place in an apartment. Now, you will know the true legitimate tests when they come along. They will not be the Kobayashi Marus of testing. Sometimes they'll try to test you on a no-win scenario like the Kobayashi Maru, but the only time they are supposed to be doing these things is if you asked them to. Just like in Star Trek, if somebody was recruited is actually wanting to join Starfleet Academy. This is one of those things. They think Earth is special to bend the rules slightly because they want to see if Earth is ready for either membership or galactic connections of any kind openly. Now, with that said, I agree with maybe 1/10 of their methodology. The rest of it, there is a lot of harshness, unduly harshness involved in some of these things. Now, spirit, it's also harsh too. There's also a lot of false synchronicities out there, just like there's a lot of false testers. You must watch for this. They'll notice some of the algorithms out there will notice, and some of the V2 cares out there will notice, and some of the military and other dimensions will notice if somebody's time slipping a lot. They will try to grab a variation of that person and try to control them from that particular realm or that particular pocket, by which then they can ping that specific person V2K wise. It's not as common, but they do this. Now, with the agenda of it being Galactic Federation, 100%? No. But are there segments of the Galactic Federation that do this to the point where you want to take a ball bat to their face? Yes.
But they're not using the word candidate of anything.
No.
I think that's what I wanted to really get across is that.
No. These are shysters.
Yeah, anyone who uses a word like that, a representative, a candidate, or something like that, I'd be like.
Yes, this is the comparison you had in your Star Trek Voyager, where you had a fake Janeway and a fake Tuvok, and that were trying to recruit other people into the Federation. They were just stealing their cargo, and then Voyager was blamed. The real one. This is the dynamic. You have the pirates that were trying to steal people's crew, and then the captain of one of the other ships says, "I want my Federation membership," and it was really supposed to be for a world then nobody in the Delta Quadrant would know this. That's essentially what's happening. Earth is more like the Delta Quadrant where nobody would know about any of these things. So the scam artists come out of the woodwork. You literally have the strangers with candy. Okay. Stranger danger. Also, anybody touches you improperly, you kick them in the nuts. Okay. So this is one of those scenarios where you have the fake recruiters and the fake people looking for candidates, and they actually want you over there so they can either steal your crap or they can harass you in some way, shape, or form that benefits them. This is usually how this goes.
It's interesting that you mentioned stranger danger because I actually said that to one of them and walked away, and he got like so upset. He goes, "Did he just call me stranger danger?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm not doing it." I want to thank you very much. My next question is, last time I was speaking with Chris in the other channel, he mentioned that there is a psychic dampening field on Earth, and he said something to the effect that it would take a third of the population to bring it down if they just focused on it and made it either is or isn't and decided to turn it off. Now, my question is, realistically, getting that many humans to focus on any one thing for any extended term is a monumental task. Could we get like maybe just like some forest people, some merfolk, some other residents, inner earth beings, or does it have to be humans or some ETs too, just to help lessen the load?
You see, this is the loophole here, David, because you've stumbled onto a loophole because of the fact. Think of the Superman scenario, for instance. You have an alien raised by human parents that actually Superman represents like the galactic community. Lex Luthor would be more the corporate or ICC type of interests or money interests in this way, and essentially in that way. So there's a lot that have come down here so that they have a stake, or dimensionally they've come here, so they have a stake in what happens here. Why do you think they're doing this? They're doing this to speed the timetable up, knowing full well that whatever they do down here, then on a soul level and or also physical level, their parents know, they know on some level that they're here to add to that third. So they also start interacting and integrating their DNA into the public. Let's just say, like, say, Superman ends up having his son be Superboy and things of that nature. You start integrating that enough, Earth eventually becomes a galactic community with no fuss, no muss. So with that said, that is actually a loophole because then you have that genetic memory that gets integrated. Others have thought this, they try to speed it up in their own way, but there are instances where that happens that way. So yes, there are galactics that live here that are also adding to that co-creative field and that torsion field that are fully aware of who they are. They may be your neighbor. And the Mer people, forest people, of course, Anakim, of course, any of the beings around, this counts towards that third. You are absolutely correct, David.
Okay, thank you. And my last question is, what does Valiant Thor want with me? Like, I mean, prior to meeting him at the conference, I didn't even know he was real. I thought he was a construct.
Well, he may act like a construct from time to time. He may act like he's not real from time to time, and some have accused him, rightfully so, of being made of plastic. But kidding, kidding, kidding. Some people say he's just like a Ken doll, no genitalia and all. But no, I should say the proper term is not anatomically correct. But in this instance, I know he's listening, so therefore I can poke at him. So what he wants from you is what he wants from everybody. He wants to teach them. He wants to sometimes legitimately recruit them into what he is doing in the background. He's actually trying to, again, do what we were saying before, increase to that third. But he's doing it his way. This is hence his phrase, I do it my way, like the Frank Sinatra song. He is dangerously obsessed with Frank Sinatra, and he is dangerously obsessed with the genre. I'm joking. It's actually pretty cool. I'm just saying that he, in doing it his way, tends to come across as a creepy creeper, when in fact he's actually doing good in this world. His methods don't always accommodate every little living situation. Sometimes it will get the person targeted. But On the flip side of this coin, what he wants from you is what he wants from anybody in these situations. He wants things to be balanced, but what I said about avatars earlier in SSP, sometimes he will plan things out to the point where sometimes the entanglement from, say, an alter to the original gets so great that you get so much harassment, but he is seeing the overall globalist picture of bringing a united federation of planets, let's just say, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one or the few, to where he feels the oversoul and the avatar can handle whatever comes, come what may, kind of thing. That's not always true, and will throw somebody's situation into a bind. He was taught very quickly recently that his plans sometimes go awry, just like the best played plans of mice and men often gang a glade. He ganged a glade in this particular way. And he found out that it's one of those fuck around and find out type of situations that your anal retentive plans don't always work. And in this particular instance, he had to find a plan B. His plan B is maybe my calculations are too harsh. It's like the little kid in your Umbrella Academy who's planning out different assassinations of people in order to prevent the larger Kennedy assassination. This and then another character had to keep him in check because it's like, no, where's your empathy? With Valiant Thor, he's full of empathy, but when he does the calculations, he won't break them. And his don't harm people like the characters did, but he then wants to say, okay, this is now one person at this point. They can take the beating while this other version of them goes the rest of the way. That I do not agree with that particular methodology. You have to keep, unfortunately, this part in check because I respect him immensely, but there are certain methods that might be too harsh for a situation that might not work quite well with each and every individual. But with yourself, he has great compassion for everybody that he deals with. It's never not there. But at the same time, he's also thinking of this globalist agenda. His is more of the DEI version, while me and Odin's version is more like, okay, we'll just have the regular unity. His is, okay, let's put this person to look like an Earthling is actually basically responsible for helping bring the Earth into its Galactic Federation self so that it can join outwardly, and it's really an act. By that time, nobody cares. It's actually been done. It's a loophole. He's magnificently using loopholes. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it's a stage play. But I do not always do things this way. I hope this answered the question.
It did very much. Thank you. And finally, I want to just ask, is there any general messages for me, Chris, Joanne, or humanity that you need to let us know for the next couple months?
Well, the next, how can I put this? I would highly advise that you take every single thing in your political theater puppets, as your CMAR would put it, very well put. I would take everything, pay attention to it, but at the same time, don't let it get absorbed into you. Don't try to pick a side. Don't try to get engrossed with it. Watch it as the performance that it is, but know that it affects, even though there's false flags being performed, although there's also a lot of negative things going on, negative plans and calculations that Valiant Thor is rigorously fighting at the moment in the background, doing a magnificent job of this. Just know, do not get sucked into this. You are literally time slipping when you do this, and you are slipping into whatever is in your head of what that situation is to be. You're creating realities as you go along, and you're slipping right into them. You're co-creating, and then you're falling into your own hole. You might be flushing your thoughts down the toilet, and then you're going with it down the pipe. Do not get involved in that particular reality that they want you to co-create. You co-create one that they slip into, not the other way around. That is the proper use of the psionics, and I don't mean actually you're hurting anybody. And also, here's another addendum. He was talking about this in private last night, but this will be, he found out that he had a tendency to, as he was imagining or to co-create or manifest a reality, he was seeing people in certain positions of that particular reality, like opening a shop, opening a healing center, opening this or doing that. Yeah, great manifestation, but what he was showing was impossible because you cannot control or account for the positions of other living people in this. Even though he was told earlier on that you can even imagine the dialogue someone will say, and that will say that if you're trying to keep a situation calm and without conflict, great, because the bad guys are trying to co-create conflict through you, like a projector or a puppet. But if you are then also trying to align a chessboard by which then others are aligned into those positions, you are you are basically fighting your own manifestation at that point because you are putting expectations on others. And this is a form of control, even though it is not seen as such. This is a new age and more metaphysical premise, whereas, oh, you can envision this person doing this. That's a form of self-farming, a Kabbalist agenda of mind control that happened in the 90s. It's a very, very bad thing that was done to people. Just like he was shown also this was talked about on other programs as well, on the one he just did on a different show, talking about scanning different people as a psychic and the ethics of this. This was another thing that was taught in the 90s that was actually an okay thing to do, and it's not. The other okay thing is to manifest the reality and you're seeing the people sitting within it. Yes, it's good to imagine this, but at the same time, you might be locking somebody into place unexpectedly, or that's the improper use of psionics, if this actually makes sense to all of you.
Well, it does. I mean, it's just kind of simple. When you're daydreaming and you're saying, I would like to see something like this happen, it could be great for people. All you're saying is see the big vision of it. Do not say the cashier is this person.
Yes.
And the door handler is this person.
Yes.
And whatever. You don't lock people into something.
No.
You just envision the right energies and the right people's coming along that something like this becomes successful.
Yes.
No different than a healing place or a healing place where people go. Don't lock people into their positions. Just see that people can come together and create this to happen. And you yourself are hoping to be a part of it, along with others who want to contribute, but don't assign the person who's there with you, because that's when you try to start dictating into somebody else's life that may or may not want to be a part of it. And you don't have the right to do that. So it keeps you from moving that manifestation. Because
it's an impossible manifestation. You were literally standing in your own way at that point. And you don't realize it because people, again, were taught then that was okay to do because that's part of manifesting. You're just waking those people up. So therefore, you have the right to move them around the chessboard. That is a Kabbalist way of thinking. That is a Nazi way of thinking. Everything has to work exactly in unified order like that. Order out of chaos. That is not how to do things. The right way, again, is what you just said. Manifesting the path, walking as if it's already occurring, but at the same time, Billy and Bobby do not have to be the cashier and the food service. So it's whomever your co-creating is meant to fill that slot.
Is that what happened to me? Because I recently had a vision of my next house. And it was like we ended up living in some type of ranch, sort of, and we made it like a healing center. But one of the persons that was, standing next to me, she literally woke up, cursed me out, and then that was that. But she was the one who told me about it. But then I saw her there too. So I'm wondering, is that what I did, or was that actually what was happening?
A little bit of both, actually. You were placing that person there, but at the same time that you were seeing that person there. So there are aspects that your oversoul and also the fact that you were manifesting, you were locking a person in place, but at the same time that person was actually there. So there was a little bit of both going on with that.
Okay. Joanne, you got anything?
Yeah, I got a ton.
I'll go for it.
I'm not going to do a ton, but I'm going to ask just a few what I think are more pertinent relative questions to what's going on now. So I do see, again, I'm concerned about some things that are going on, let's say in a bigger community of people into disclosure and people that are into some of what we're talking about, because I really do feel there is a concerted effort to get people to constantly explore and open doors that they do not need to be doing. And it's
Time
causing
slippage galore.
I know it's causing so much chaos.
Chaos magic.
Right. And so I just wanted you to just talk a minute about that. I hate, again, I know a lot of people think they're beyond being manipulated, but they're not beyond being manipulated. And this is one area where I think it's happening a
When
lot.
you think you're beyond being manipulated, that is ego. In this instance, that is self-preservation, basically saying, no, I can't have that happen. That's like the whole seatbelt premise. Oh, no, that's not going to happen to me. Now you're crashing through the windshield. That kind of thing. So you'll find that there are certain premises in the New Age community, and also now regurgitated in the disclosure community, that allow for these things like, oh, if I say so, therefore it is. Yes, I think, therefore I am. Yes, I fully agree. If you're anchoring yourself and grounding yourself that way, absolutely so. This does not mean that you're automatically immune to the very thing that you are trying to fight. Plus, also, you're fighting your own manifestation because you're constantly opening doors. It's the same thing as similar to what I said previously. You're creating an impossible solution. You're opening the door by which you are demanding people like myself come in and close. It'd be like basically like if you went in and opened your refrigerator door and or unplugged your refrigerator and went to sleep and wonder why all your food rotted. Then you blamed me for your food rotting. No, you unplugged your refrigerator, or you left the door open and a thief came in and robbed you. No, you didn't lock your door. So that's not our fault. Now, in some instances where you've been led astray, there's a mulligan there in place. Of course, there's plenty of that going on. In that community, they are being very encouraged to open every door possible. And this is what the New Age community wrought, unfortunately. Open every door possible, leave the damn thing open. You're constantly supposed to be connecting and ascending. Wrong. You're supposed to be grounding. You're supposed to be grounded in not time slipping and de-anchoring and going, yay. No. No. I would teach this in my class like this. If a few of the New Age students were in the class, I would say, basically what I would say is, how do you reach your higher self, or what you call higher self? And if any of them would say that, oh, you go in astral travel and yay, no. And I've gotten that answer before, by the way, so I use it as a teaching tool. Now, I had a student that actually time slipped into our space and did not wish to leave. So therefore, they stayed. And at the fact then, they were able to be taught all of these things. And this was roughly around the 90s timeframe. And around the time frame where there was a lot of portals being opened, there was a lot of dimensional invasions going on in the 90s. Oh, there were a lot of them. And there were a lot of time slippages. Very much kind of like your Flight of the Navigator. It's very much the same, where the boy time slips and voila. But with this, though, the teaching that needs to be discouraged. Keep going with what you guys are doing with this. This is actually helping out a great deal in this area. The people cannot go off and do aimless reads on people, like he was saying in the other program, where you can't just go reads to like the Long Island medium, going around and opening doors and putting cords on, and doing a read does put a cord temporarily, because it's like you're plugging into the person. Discourage that very heavily. Keep going with your teachings. Keep going with this, because this is actually helping out a great deal here where I am, and helping out a great deal on Midgard. So, finally, I will say, in that community, you will see a lot of them just aimlessly opening doors. They're not questioning who they're speaking to. They're not discerning. And I will have to say this, because as I have to be truthful, it's only going to get a little worse before it gets better.
It's been getting worse. I mean, I can't believe. To me, it feels like it's done an excrement. Listen to me, isn't that horrible?
You were actually right the first time. So,
It's exploded a little bit here in the diarrhea sense, but poop du jour, that in these last, 4 5 months, how much it's kind of just been this exponential kind of growth of people, more and more and more and more chaos, more and more and more people doing it. And I say that because, I see the chaos it will cause. Again, for those masterminds that are convincing people that this is the right thing to do, I do tip my hat to them because they're geniuses at what they do. I will say that. But people don't realize, and I think what's really hard right now for people is that they do not understand the importance of who they are in now, current minute, present moment, right
they're trying to
here.
confuse identities like they're doing with the theys and the thems and the non-IMs, and you're an IM presence. It's the same as opening a door and not closing it and wondering why there's a thief with a knife in your bedroom.
But
This
what
is
that will lead to, though, is the fact that it becomes then the opposite of growing a unity. It really does. People now are all about, the talk about the I am, but it's just now, again, this internal, and again, I just keep saying this, they're going into places, into time where we failed. You're not going to be able to go back and try to bring back, they're not going to the Akashic to read a book to realize you want to know the mystery school moment of this time? You fucked up. Don't do it again. So what are they doing? They're opening up the door to the same place that was already messed up, looking for some sort of mystery when they're not listening that they need to shut the door.
See, they are picking up on the library of their souls for one, and also where I am too. Just like your J.K. Rowling channeling the Wizarding World. They're picking up on these things, and when they hear mystery school, they think the part of them thinks this, or part of them when they hear this, they think mystery school. I want to tell you something about the mystery school. Magic was taught. Yes, they had to be done in secret, away from the church. But was it a mystery? No, I don't think that it was. It fell into legend and became mysteries and mysterious things. But at the same time, they are plugging into something that is part of some of the worst narratives ever created from as far back in history as you have numbers for. But it is also some of your three-letter agencies. Right now, there are people, as I am speaking, sitting in a back room right now, laughing their ass off right now. And it's I'm completely pissed off and abhorrent to this type of action because it is messing things up like you wouldn't believe. They're sitting back in the back, just dying on the other end of a set of screens, just looking. And you know the people I am talking about because you've encountered them multiple times. They do this constantly with no checks and balances. They are sitting, or they think they don't have it. They think they have complete autonomy when we're watching you. So just know your playtime in the sandbox is actually not that far far from being far gone. So just because I know that a few of them are listening at the moment. But think of it this way. I'll give an example. Let's just say you have somebody giving a speech at a conference or what have you, and they have other beings that they're channeling that probably are less than reputable. From whatever shithole solar system they crawled out of. Let's just say Aldebaran. With that, let's say just a few of those large-headed mongoloids come in and start talking through somebody. Who creeps in along with them? Some government agency. This person or person could be on a different floor of a hotel you're in. And what happens when that happens? They could be sitting there doing their thing with the chip in their head, and that channeler is not the wiser. But yet, if somebody like you comes along and picks up this and starts talking about it, what will these beings over here, Exhibit A, and beings over here, Exhibit B, the government agents of Exhibit B, do? They will immediately try to discredit you and make you look like the bad guy. So, there are agents they have, like you call them inborns, where they're chaos agents that do these things quite well. But there are other tiers. There's handlers, there's narcissists, there's all these things. plants, all of them. He counted at your current conference at least 5 in the dance room that were there. There were more. There were some in other rooms too. Heavily watched, these big events are. Not bad events, not anything. Great. A great idea. But the more you have, these are the words of Seymour and Fuma. The more you have, the more you have to guard. So, my suggestion for gatherings like this, keep them small. Because if you have a smaller one, then, or a gathering where you just gather, as you suggested off recording, David, where you gather, maybe even record a few things, you post a few things, and you have camaraderie. How is that ever going to be controlled? It's not. So, the bigger it is, the more it can get hit. The smaller it is, it's one of those aim small, miss small. And it's really the fact that you are aiming higher in reality, but you don't appear to be aiming higher, if this makes sense. So I will finalize this by saying that you must watch for these V2Kers. That is extremely prevalent and out of control right now. During your Samhain time frame, or you call it the Samhain or Halloween season, the energies are chaotic even for these people. But just know, the slingshot happens on the other side of that slip and slide. As you go down and then up towards your solstice, just know it's a bit of a roller coaster after you pierce the other end of the Samhain or the harvest. This is the strongest time of year. Spells are at least 10 to 15 times stronger right now. Intentions are 10 to 15 times stronger or more, depending on how strong your psionic field is. If you already have strong psionic field, yes, this will do this. It's just like in your Limitless, where they took that pill to make themselves smarter kind of thing. And they said, if you're already intelligent, it's better. It's like this. If you're already picking up on things, you're picking up a kaleidoscope of doorways opening and closing all the time, some of them at once. Okay, this is because you're closer to your central sun. And when you're closer to your central sun, like what happens when you get closer to a heat source? You get
It comes alive.
Everything comes alive. What happens in your summer and spring and summer? In spring, flowers bloom because of showers. You have your April showers bring May flowers type of thing. Think of that when it comes to the Halloween season, but for your central sun and for the winds that it carries with it and the sails that it pushes the boats around with. This is what's actually going on. And think of trillions of doorways, not just one or two, trillions. This is why some of your Kabbalists and some of your people in that area, they're doing dark spells. They know if they can pull it off this time of year, it's incredibly powerful, but good also does the same. Everybody's kind of in their corners waiting for the storm to pass. They're tightening their mooring lines, their boat to the dock, and they're hoping the hurricane passes. This is how even some of your Kabbalists do. But it is also the most powerful time. If anybody can pull off a spell that isn't, tying their mooring lines down, after the whole thing's said and done, all the rest that had their mooring lines tied down will go, you did what? Oh, you did this to us. That kind of thing. And may the fun begin at that point. So.
I was gonna say you've mentioned doors opening multiple times. Is there a quick way that like average people can close the doors besides not opening to begin with? Like once they're opening, it's like so you don't have to do a lot of work with heavy lifting.
Yes, it's a simple visualization. You were helping him out with portals in his eyes recently.
Yeah. Yes.
A visualization of it just going kind of like the old TV that had the little dot in the center when it shut off. That's essentially what you can visualize, or a door shutting. If you feel that there are doors around you, especially around this time of year, you can also utter and say that all the unnecessary doors for the current moment in time are closed and sealed permanently. You start saying words like this, you will start to have around you where the doors are closed. It doesn't mean the outer environment further out will, just around yourself, and you are grounded all the time within that I am presence. You are basically saying you are grounded, unnecessary doors that do not need to be open or closed in the here and now. You will start to you will start to see a big difference.
Thank you very much, Hajimo.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I have so many questions, but we're gonna kind of call it right now, and we'll have another conversation a little bit later on. But I am gonna ask you to stick around, because it's something after the show, I do want to ask you if you don't mind. And I want to share with David too, so thank you, and any last words for this show, and then I'll talk to you again in a minute.
Yeah, the fact that you made a show that's the world of Sasquatch, also in the wording now tells my Anakam brethren and also Sasquatch, subsequently Sasquatch brethren, that they are welcome to actually have open mic night. And so, with that said, that also means karaoke, where they'll be kind of like a sing-along. Now, you must also even include my own people in this, and regular Sasquatch in this. You must also include for the highest good as well when you do your Law of One. This excludes any mischievous versions of my people. But just know, you're saying the world of, I don't think you know how many others have actually scouted you out that you have no knowledge of, that are going, what's this? It's like basically like some dude wandering into a karaoke mic night. You know, going, so you're fixing it with the Law of One. I just wanted to point out that there are others that wanted open mic night as well that have had to be curbed.
Okay.
That some of my people are not innocent in this either. Yeah, you have Anakam lines, and then you have Forest People Sasquatch that have a bit of Australopithecus DNA in them as well, from the Anakam doing some creative genetic merging, let's just say. But anyway, Telnorskus would probably know more about that. But anyhow, I will digress at this point. Thank you for having me on this evening. And as always, Anakam, or Analam always, as the Anakam phrase is. So, I thank you.
Thank you at all.
Oh, yeah. That, yeah, he knows the reason he rattles things off so quickly is he knows he has a time bracket in which to do it in. So he's like, so it's like, you know, he wants to put the whole lesson curriculum in there. So it's like, he's trying to cram an entire book of like history into my head in like in less than a few minutes. So it's, whoa, wow. And this piece that he's using is pretty potent, actually. I was wondering why. Okay, and I will point this out to the viewers as well while we still have the show going here. This bit of metal that's on the top here, that's brass, right? There's some brass filings I put in this piece. And the fact that it is right here, he is the teacher of the true use of psionics, and that is the psionic like node right there. You know, so for them, or it's a little high, it's up in his hair, but still. But yeah, but I just wanted to point that out. That was like a psionic energy right there. So I thought that was appropriate for his bust here. So I probably wouldn't be able to replicate that if I tried. That's his doing right there, doing that. But I thought this was an interesting show. I don't know if you two have anything to add before we take it out.
No.
Thank you for having me. It was very interesting to get the information that we needed. I'm glad we got to talk about time slips, how to recognize them, how to close the doors, how not to open the doors, and, you know, focusing on where you are. And I think that's a really important message that we got out tonight.
Yes, I do as well. So I thank all of you for watching this show. We greatly appreciate this. And now this is the point where I now close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas at this moment in time. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now.